diving in, get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning, here, and I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in, get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul.
Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in Southeast Louisiana. I'm Reverend Larrye-Marie Heyl. We're so glad that you've decided to join us today. We're celebrating 8 years of being a center here. We are radically inclusive spiritual renegades who heal hearts and create community. And we embrace conscious spiritual living. We encourage everyone to live in enthusiastic expectancy of all the good that we know is theirs. So let us begin with prayer. So we just take a deep, nourishing breath. We move from our heads to our hearts, and we connect with that divine, whether you call it spirit or universe or God or whatever it is, Yahweh, it doesn't matter. Connect with that center of all love, knowing that God is the peace and the joy and the ease and the grace and the freedom, the generosity, the compassion that is the essence of this planet. And as individual expressions of the divine, each of us have all of those qualities of the divine right within us. We are love, we are compassion, we are generosity, we are peace. All of that is flowing in through and as each of us. And what I know to be the truth is that each of us is here today to find out how we can change the world. What it is that we can do that's part of our mission on this planet to create a world that works for everybody that's on it. To create a world in which there is no war and there is no poverty and there is no sickness. To create a world in which love and acceptance is the essence of what people feel. So I am grateful that you have decided to show up, because I know there's something in the music or a quote or in the message or something in the connection with the people that are watching with you, whatever it might be, that there is some way that you're going to know today that you can shift just a little bit and be exactly who you've come to be on this planet and make a difference. So it's from all that gratitude that I just release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth that God has said yes, that we have planted beautiful seeds of love in this garden of the Center for Spiritual Living, Southeast Louisiana, and they are growing. And God has said, wow, look at that, it's very good. So I can just let it be, knowing it's already done. I say amen, and we affirm it together. And so it is. And we have our opening song today. Carol Lotz, who is a minister friend of mine that I dearly love, has offered to send us a couple songs today. And this song, I'm sure most of you know. It's called What a Wonderful World.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the warm sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
So this is our time for celebration and healing. Our time in our service where we celebrate life and we pray for people who desire prayer. We begin with celebration, so I invite you to say aloud, so that the whole universe can hear it, any event in your life for which you're grateful and joyful this week. And now we turn to the healing portion of our service. We're a community steeped in healing, so we pause now to pray for anyone who's not feeling the joy of life that we perhaps were just feeling. They're not feeling maybe that they have things to celebrate. And I truly love this part of our service because it's so in alignment with who we are. So let's pray. God is all there is. God is that love and that peace and ease and grace and freedom and so much more. And as an individual expression of the divine, each of us have within us all of these qualities of spirit. They're available to us right here and right now. And what I know to be the truth is that there are people on this planet right now that aren't embracing those qualities. So we stop for a moment and we create a circle of love. And in this community, we place in that circle of love anyone that we recognize within ourselves or for someone else that might need prayer. So I'm going to pause and I just invite you to say aloud the names of all of those people that you want to include in our circle of love. I know that God is right where each of us happens to be, right here and right now, moving in, through, and as each of us. And I know that the divine has heard every name that we spoke, either in our hearts or aloud. And what I'd like you to do now is pause again, and from your heart to all of theirs, just send out love, knowing that the divine knows exactly how to distribute it. And what I know to be the truth is that anything that needs to be released within each of these people is being released now, be it disease of the mind, of the body, of the soul. I know that anything that's seeking to come forth and be lifted up can be lifted up. And that this release and this lifting up is healing whatever's called to be healed. I know that each of these people is feeling more deeply their connection with the divine right now. I have evidence of that, and I know it to be the truth for everyone that we place in our circle. So I'm so grateful to know that the God without is the God within me. The God without is the God within every person in our circle, every person in this community, and every person on this planet. And I'm grateful for that power of community prayer and what it means to the uplifting of the people on this planet. So it's from all that gratitude that I release this prayer into the law of mind, spirit, and action. Because I know that the divine, in all of its wisdom, has already called all of this good. Any heavy lifting that needs to be done to heal whatever needs to be healed, the divine is already taken care of. So I can just know it's already done, say amen, and together we can affirm it. And so it is. I invite you to join me for our community affirmation. My life's purpose is already within me, and I am committed to its unfoldment. I am here by divine appointment to join in a community that cares for one another, to be in a place that transforms people's lives, to remember the highest truth about myself, to learn spiritual tools for personal transformation, and thus to make the world a more joyful place.
Everything is sacred. Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a wonder, unfolding right before our eyes. Everything's alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a blessing, bursting from the earth and sky. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred. Everyone is filled with the divine. Everyone is alive with spirit, with spirit.
So we take a deep, nourishing breath. We step into believing that we truly are filled with the divine, that we are alive with spirit. And from that place of knowing everything is a blessing, we move into the quiet of meditation, listen to the divine, and learn what is ours to do to change the world. And as we come back, we bring with us those thoughts from the divine, knowing that everyone is sacred. Everyone is filled with the divine and alive with spirit.
Everything is sacred. Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit. With spirit. Everything is a wonder, unfolding right before our eyes. Everything is alive with spirit. With spirit. Everything is a blessing, bursting from the earth and sky. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred. Everyone is filled with the divine. Everyone is alive with spirit. With spirit. We are alive. We are alive. We are
Hello, my name is Tom Tarver, and I would like to share a reading with you today. It's from the book This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes. The Spirit of God is an undivided and indivisible wholeness. It fills all time with its presence in people's space, with the activity of its thoughts. It is, of course, difficult for the human mind to fully understand the meaning of such an all-encompassing presence. However, perhaps the greatest difficulty is that we try too hard to make it too abstract. You already know that you live. You know that your life is people with events, people coming and going, happenings that take place in your everyday experience. And the thoughts in your own mind, the activities of your own affairs, the circulation of the blood in your body. Don't you think this is the place to begin? You already understand that presence of life. Your endeavor, then, is not so much to find God as it is to realize His presence. To understand that this presence is always with you. Nothing can be nearer to you than that which is the very essence of your being. Your outward search for God culminates in the greatest of all possible discoveries, the finding of God at the very center of your own being, and that life flows up from within you. So today, I proclaim, and I invite you to do the same. We proclaim our divine inheritance. I am rich with the richness of God. I am strong with the power of God. I am guided by the wisdom of God, and I am held in the goodness of God today. That's beautiful. So you have a wonderful God-filled day. Thank you.
Karen Mitchell was one of the singers on the ministers' gathering that I talked about last week, and she agreed to allow us to use a couple of her songs. I'm sure that you're going to love this song that she's doing, and it's called Love is the Answer.
I can cry about my day, say everything went wrong. No one sings their song my way. Or I can laugh about my day, the good it really brought me, the patience you taught me each step of the way. Question, love is the answer. Whatever the lesson, love is the answer. Whatever way we choose to live, love is the answer. Love is the answer. I can cry about my life, say everything goes wrong. No one's ever on my side. Or I can laugh about my life, the kindness you've shown me, the love that has grown me each step of the way. Question, love is the answer. Whatever that lesson, love is the answer. Whatever way we choose to live, love is the answer. Love is the answer. All the ways I tried to save my broken heart, all the days I cried alone into the wind. I never knew love was right there from the start, and all I had to do was go within. Whatever the question, love is the answer. Whatever the lesson, love is the answer. Whatever way we choose to live, love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer.
I want to thank Carol Lotz and Karen Mitchell for providing the music today. We're continuing with our Who You Are series, guiding ourselves to listen to that spiritual message about who we are spiritually as individuals so that we can grow and thrive in all aspects of our lives. And this week, we're talking about we can change the world. We can change the world by being all that we can be. When I stepped into ministerial school, it was to become a minister and to give credibility to this Center for Abundant Living that I wanted to start somewhere in Oregon, because at the time I lived there for about 30 years. And I had great plans all drawn up and ready to build. A center was going to be for retreats, and people could come there and learn to experience their abundance and figure out how to be abundant in all areas of their lives. And so my idea of being a minister was to be the head of this retreat center. And then I went to a retreat for the ministers in our area. And at the retreat, the dean asked us to consider that God might have a plan for us bigger than we had, so that we could be even greater than we could be. And could we just consider that something greater was in store for us? Well, I cried. I didn't want to give up my dream. And I knew that I was the exception to the rule, of course. I was certain that my ministry was all about having this teaching center for abundant living. Well, here I am in Baton Rouge, and I've spent the last 8 years building up this Center for Spiritual Living in Southeast Louisiana, and being a pulpit minister, which was also not my plan, and creating this community that's radically inclusive spiritual renegades who truly do heal hearts. And they have opened my heart to how we can really change the world if we just listen to God's plan and realize that sometimes what we're planning isn't what the divine had in mind. So I'm going to finish that story in a little bit, but let's not get too far into the conversation today before we have the question for the week. So the question for this week is this: what's the one choice that you can do or be so you always come from a place of remembering that you can change the world, one person and one action at a time? So one more time. What's the one choice that you can do or be so you can always come from a place of remembering that you can change the world, one person and one action at a time? Because what I know to be the truth for each person on this planet is that we are where God shows up. We can change the world by being all that we can be. Each one of us is this individualized expression of an infinite being, an infinite consciousness. God is in us, through us, as us. And you hear me say that a lot. And that's evidenced by our divine inheritance. We're all endowed with all the qualities that are part of what we think of as God. The love, the peace, the grace, the freedom, the joy, the wisdom. I could do the whole talk just in talking the qualities of God that live within us. It's important that each of us know that we have unique gifts. And our gifts are necessary and needed components for this world to be the best that it can be. Let me repeat that. Your unique gift is a needed and necessary component for this world to be the great world that it could be. I used to spend hours up in the hospital with my son, and there was usually a common area where there was this big, huge puzzle. And since my son loved doing puzzles, we would go down to the common area and we'd work on it together. And often we'd get really to the end of the puzzle, and guess what? We'd be disappointed because there'd be 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 pieces missing because someone wanted to be the last one to finish the puzzle. My point here is that life is a lot like that for each of us. Each person is a piece of the puzzle in this marvelous tapestry of life that the divine has created. And if even one of us isn't part of that tapestry, the puzzle is missing something. It doesn't feel quite whole and complete. We live in a world of 7.8 billion people. I looked it up this week. Just a few years ago, it was 7.2. So what do we have to offer that 7.8 billion people might need? And the question might seem overwhelming. What can one person do? Because we might feel that we're insignificant in that 7.8 billion people. But what you need to remember is that there is only one you. And you're the only you in the entire world, in the entire planet. You'll always be the only you. No one will ever be on this planet exactly as you. So nobody can do, give, or be what it is that's yours to do, give, and be to this planet. You're a unique piece of that puzzle of life. Each one of us is a unique expression of God's artistry. God is in us, through us, and as us. And without even one of us, a piece of that magnificent tapestry is missing. Think about that for a minute. You're part of this tapestry. We've talked about that before. If even one thread in the tapestry is not there, it's incomplete. But you're the only one on the planet that has your makeup, your skills, your style of doing things, your background, your talents, your history, your gifts, your sphere of influence, the people that you know that you can influence. You're the only one that is you. And God, knowing itself as you, is the way you're part of that masterpiece. And your job to change the world is to be the vision. Allow God's wisdom to support you to live by bringing you, all of who you are, into manifestation. I heard this phrase, vision without action is fantasy, and action without vision is chaos. And it really struck me. And what it meant to me was that for peace and healing of the world, it's essential that we don't edit or censor who we've come here to be. We like to do that. Oh, she could do that. She's much better at whatever. And we give up on part of what our dream is. But you can be the necessary healing part that's needed by just aligning with God, by being the living embodiment of what is crucial in the world for you to give. And what's crucial in the world for all of us to give right now is love. When we think about it, each of us is irreplaceable. So if we were kind and promoted the wonder that's in our hearts, every person would actually bring forth their unique genius and find expression in that. In Karen's song right before the talk, she said, I can cry about my life or I can laugh about my life. But remember, the whole point of the song was, whatever the question, love is the answer. Whatever the question, love is the answer. I would say that each of us hit the mega jackpot when we look at the love and the light that we are within ourselves. What do you plan to do with your incredible inheritance? With that prosperity, which, by the way, can never be depleted. Nobody can ever take away the fact that you are a unique expression of the divine. And you might feel sometimes like your prosperity is depleted in certain ways, because right now the world feels full of dis-ease. And certainly there seems to be a lot of uncertainty about what comes in the future. The important thing is that we don't let fear rule. That we don't let fear force us to make choices that are not about love. That we allow that still small voice within us to guide us to do what's ours to do, what's ours to contribute on this planet. That we allow Spirit to take charge. We are eternally supported by a power for good. Catherine of Siena said this, be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire. I just love that. Be who God meant you to be, and you will set the world on fire. Believe it and share that. It's done to you through you. So take who you're meant to be out into the world and set the world on fire. So when we take an orange and squeeze it, we all know that what comes out is orange juice. And if we took some grapes and pressed them, what we would get is grape juice. Now, true, we take grapes sometimes and turn them into various qualities of wonderful wine. But what I want you to know is that it's what's inside that counts. So what's inside of you? Ernest Holmes, in Practical Application of Science of Mind, said this: "There is an irresistible, universal, and divine urge within us to be happy, to be whole, and to express the fullness of life." An irresistible urge. So what's inside of you? The quote goes on, "The latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. It's back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor. It has produced sages, saints, saviors, and will, when permitted, create a new world in which war, poverty, sickness, and famine will disappear." Wow. What kind of a world would that possibly feel like living in? And to change the world, we have to embrace that we can make a difference. John F. Kennedy said that one person can make a difference and everyone should try. And the idea that one person can impact many lives certainly may start to make sense when we think of people like Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Beethoven, Mozart, Aristotle, Michelangelo, Princess Diana, and let's not forget Chief Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Those are just to mention a few. I personally want to take just a second here to thank Chief Justice Ginsburg for all that she did for this country to bring forth equality. And she believed she could make a difference. When she graduated the top of her class at Columbia, she couldn't get a job because she was a woman and she had a small child. She didn't give up. Thank goodness she didn't give up. Thank goodness that she believed that she could make a difference. So I'm grateful to her tenacity and for all that she's done for this country to bring forth change that was absolutely necessary. She said that real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. She also said to fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that you lead others to join you. Do it in a way that you lead others to join you. She knew she could make a difference. The question is, do you believe that you can make a difference? If the answer is no, why not? We are the place where God shows up, each one of us. So why do you not think that you could make a difference? You might not be Chief Justice Ginsburg. However, you will never know till you step up and contribute what is yours to bring to this planet. Edward Hale said this: "I'm the only one, but still I am one. I can't do everything, but still I can do something. Because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do." Now that is very important when we think about, can we make a difference? One morning this man was sitting in his living room and he was looking out along the beach, and he noticed that the waves were washing up all of these starfish and they were being left on the sand. Well, in case you don't know it, starfishes can't survive on the sand. And he just noticed that there were so many of them out there dying in the baking sun. He was disturbed about this situation, and when he started walking, taking a walk on the beach, he stared down and he was just shaking his head, and he was noticing that so many of these starfish were dying. And he looked up, and a little ways down the beach was this woman. And she was, one by one, picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean, giving them as big a toss as she could. Finally, the man caught up to her and he said, "You can't do it. There are too many. You'll never get them all. It won't help." The waves are just going to bring in more of them. The determined woman picked up another one and threw it out as far as she could, and she said, well, I made a difference for that one. So we might not be able to make as big a difference as we think we might like to, but the obvious point is you have to believe that you can make a difference, at least for some of the people on this planet, or some of the things on this planet that, like the starfish. The guy didn't believe he could help, and so he did nothing. The woman believed she could help, and she made a difference to those starfish that she was able to throw back into the ocean. We need to believe that we can make a difference. We need to realize that we're here to do what is ours to do, and that God has many greater things in store for us than we can possibly imagine. When we're children, I think we believe that. We think that we can conquer the world. We have all of these wonderful thoughts about what our life is going to look like. And then our rational minds start telling us as we get to adult to limit what we think, to limit what we think is possible. We lose a little bit of faith in what's possible in life. So here are a couple stories about children that did great things. Abigail Lupe was only 10 years old, and she wanted to do something for her great-grandmother who was in a retirement home because it was her 100th birthday. So she put together this little review of songs and dances, and the kids went and performed at the retirement home. As she realized how many people were smiling, she expanded that, and now she runs this little thing called Care Girls, and they go around, they're kids from 8 to 13, and they go around and entertain people at retirement homes. So she's learned how to put faces that are smiling into those retirement homes and give them a little bit of something from Broadway musicals and all the music that they dearly love. And Blair Gooch was an 8-year-old boy, and he happened to see the earthquake in Haiti, and he saw a little boy crying, and he was in a pile of rubble, and he couldn't figure out what he could do, but then he realized that he had a teddy bear. So he engaged his teachers, and they created a school-wide and then a city-wide campaign to send thousands and thousands of teddy bears. And they sent 25,000 teddy bears to the island. And he's since expanded his thought, and now they do book supplies, school supplies, they collect toys for kids that need it. And he has advice for kids that I think is also good for us as adults. It doesn't really matter how small or old you are. If you're young and think you can't make a difference in the world, well, you actually can. So, when one flower blooms, spring awakens everywhere. John O'Donohue said that. Last week I talked about Shaky Butner's default mode network, which is a brain system that supports the integration of ourself with the social world. It's also our place of creativity. And the important part of what she said when she was talking about this default mode network is that our creativity wakes up when we're not paying attention to the external world. So that means when we're not on our little devices and we're not glued to the TV. It's only when we become still and calm so we can hear the messages. Listening means being calm, and for me it means settling into my heart. It means getting out of my head and moving that 17 long inches into my heart. Because the truth is, the heart of the matter is that hearts matter. God is love and love is God. And for me, I feel love when I'm resting in my heart. In your reading today, you heard these words. Your outward search for God culminates in the greatest of all possible discoveries, the finding of God at the center of your own being. Love flows up from within you. Love arises in relationships, through connections, through you allowing life, allowing God to flow up from within you. The highest human expression of God is kindness and compassion and love and benevolence and altruism and generosity. Love is the purity of spirit in all of us. So how do you let God flow up from within you? You probably realize that I do have a few suggestions. Bring happiness and joy into other people's lives in your own way, whatever that means. It might mean cooking for them. It might mean taking them out to the park so that they can walk in the park. It doesn't matter. However that is in your own way. Give of your time and resources. I call this being a person of increase. Because when you give of your time and resources, it comes back to you multiplied abundantly. So not only have you gifted the person that you gave your time and resources to, but you get gifted as well. Do anonymous acts of kindness. Let someone in line at the grocery store. You know, I've been standing in line before and I had a big buggy full of stuff, and somebody behind me might have one or two items, and I just say, would you like to go ahead of me? It's amazing how excited people can get about just getting in front of one person. You know, it's just a random act of kindness. Smile. I realize with masks it's harder to see other people smile, but if you smile really big, it starts to show up in the sparkle in your eyes. Okay, so I like to hug, but we can't give actual hugs anymore. So send a text hug or an air hug. Air hug. Listen deeply. You probably aren't surprised that one of the things that a lot of people on this planet crave is to be heard. So give a chance for someone to just be heard. Listen to someone that maybe doesn't get an opportunity to talk to other people, maybe because they live alone. And pray for each person on the planet to find their amazing self. We know that prayer works. The last one, but definitely not the least, is learn to forgive. Not only others, but learn to forgive yourself. Hold nothing in your heart that is hurt, because when we hold hurt in our heart, it's hard for love to flow up from within us. So let go of any hurt, forgive yourself, forgive others, because the more you love, the more accessible you're going to be to love. And when it comes down to it, the reality of this is people don't care what you know. They want to know that you care. In case you didn't get that the first time, let me repeat it. People don't care what you know. They want to know that you care. So tap into the law of love. It's where real change and real reform and real transformation can take place on this planet. Love is the power that can heal this planet. It can heal everything that's going on in our world. Because love doesn't see color, it doesn't see gender or race or culture. It doesn't see differences or separation. And it sees differences as beautiful expressions of God. Beautiful different parts of that artistic tapestry that has been woven by the divine. Love sees the essence of who people are. So let your heartfelt yearning to change the world take on a tangible form. And by the way, my dean used to say, if you have a vision of how you can change the world and it doesn't scare you just a little bit, the vision's probably not big enough. So make your vision big enough that it scares you just a little bit. And when the fear arises, or when something gets squeezed out of you other than like squeezing something out of an orange that's not orange juice, if something gets squeezed out of you that's something other than love, like anger or sadness or frustration or even unkind words, just pay attention to what was going on there. See it as ability to have a lesson that you can learn. Reframe it. Oh, I see when I'm tired and hungry, I'm a little bit snappy with people. So make sure in the future that you eat regularly and don't get overtired. So what can you do when fear arises? Again, you can pray. I invite you to be gentle with yourself, to love yourself through whatever it is that you just did, or whatever it is that you did yesterday or a week ago. Quit beating yourself up about it. It's in the past. Let it go. Reframe it as a lesson that you learned. And when you see something that's bumping up against your comfort zone, know that it means that new horizons are coming. Isn't that a great thought? New horizons are coming. We all love to sit and watch the sunrise or the sunset. You know, new horizons are coming. It's like watching a sunrise. It brings some joy of what's possible. We don't have to change the world. We only need to change a small part of it. If each one of us changed just a small part of the world, can you imagine the difference that would make? So discover what's yours to do and do it. Because small acts of love can make humongous differences. When people come together in community, or just maybe 2 or 3 of you that have been living in the same household, so you don't have to worry about the COVID thing, when you can form powerful groups, possibilities become endless. And when we get together to let that love flow up from within us, that's the way that mountains are moved. By connecting and seeing our inherent link that binds us, people working together can make a big difference. You know, we see after great tragedies in the world and after natural disasters, how people come together, and it seems like wherever the tragedy was, the world wants to help. Why do we reserve our greatness for times of tragedy and natural disaster? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Why do we reserve our greatness and our generosity and the extra love that we have to give for those times when something has just happened that's saddens us to a great degree? Ernest Holmes in the Beverly Hills Lectures said this: our movement will depend not on a talk such as I'm giving you now. Our evolution, what it will mean to the world, will not depend upon the books we write. It will depend on what we do with it. It will depend on someone knowing enough about it to cause something to happen because of what he knows. When he wants it to happen, where he wants it to happen, in a way it ought to happen, according to his own volition, proving that he is not subject to any whimsical caprice. Our movement doesn't depend upon talks or upon reading books or writing books. It depends upon us doing something in the world, taking this fabulous philosophy of love and acceptance out into the world and demonstrating it. Does that make sense? I mean, it's important that we recognize that it's not about knowing the philosophy, it's about using the philosophy. So I promise to tell you the rest of my ministerial story, and I apologize to those of you that are watching that have already heard it. I was at that retreat and I was feeling very upset about letting go of my dream, because this had been my dream for several years. I mean, when you draw up plans for a retreat center, you know that you're serious about it, right? And I was the exception to this rule, that my plan for who I was supposed to be wasn't big enough, and that God had something even greater in store for me. I knew why I was in ministerial school. And then a few months later, I came down to New Orleans to a convention, and it was in February of 2012, we had a convention where the United Centers for Spiritual Living and the International Centers for Spiritual Living were coming together and uniting finally to be one Center for Spiritual Living. I mean, after all, we both had the same philosophy. Why were we two separate groups? Because we were coming together, there was a booklet that had all the names of the United Centers and the International Centers. And so I flipped through it, looking at the different states, and I got to Louisiana, and there was nothing. Absolutely no Center for Spiritual Living at all. And I went up to the lady and I said, "Did you skip Louisiana? It's not in the book." She says, "No, there's no centers there." There weren't any in Mississippi either. And my heart just began to ache because I grew up here. I love Louisiana. How could this state not have somebody that had decided to come here and bring this philosophy of love and acceptance to the people that were here? Sure, it was the Bible Belt, and I knew that that was a challenge, but we need this philosophy of love and acceptance even more to heal the hurt of all the guilt from religious beliefs of being a sinner, and you have to let go of all your sins, and if you keep sinning, God's not going to love you. So I was really sad about it, and the day went on, and I went to all of the different events that were going on, and that night I went to bed, and I had this dream that I was a minister in Louisiana. Well, I got up the next day and, of course, told my friends about it and laughed, but I had the same dream the next night. And so I'm still kind of telling people, I wished I could get rid of this dream. It's like I'm starting to dream it every night, and it's not my dream. And the meanwhile, my dean walks by and she said, "I've known that for you for a long time." And I'm thinking, what? So I dreamed it a third night, and finally I said, okay, I will be open to this dream. Just let me quit dreaming it every night. And I flew back to Portland, and I had a CD that was a 6 CD player, and it randomly selected songs. And I got in my car, and Michael Gott was singing Surrender. And I went, okay, I got it. I guess I'm surrendering. And so the Center for Spiritual Living in Southeast Louisiana was born. And it actually happened to be on this exact same weekend in 2012. I chose this weekend because it was my mom's birthday and also the weekend of the date that my dad died. And I knew that they would both be very proud of me stepping out of my comfort zone and starting a teaching chapter here in Louisiana. And what I believe is that this center has made a difference in lives. That there's more love and more joy in the world because we have come here together. We're radically inclusive, and we are spiritual renegades, and we do heal hearts. And we create community and teach each other and others how to love and how to know that each of us is where God shows up. We just passed the fall solstice, where the leaves are changing color and the temperature is getting a little bit cooler. Plants are stopping to make food, and animals are preparing for a long winter. And the daylight is getting shorter. And so while the world outside is preparing for shorter days, let me advise you to take the longer nights, to have some time when you let go of all of the devices and the TV, and just listen to what God may have for you to do, what God has in store for you to do. Our leadership is needed in the world right now. Healing and the change that's required comes from the heart. So we have to stay open, and we have to have time to listen so we can hear God's vision for us. Not as a command from above, because that's not what we believe, but as sacred guidance that comes from within, that flows up from within us and points us in the direction of our greatest potential. That booklet at the conference was pointing me in the direction of my greatest potential. That pain that I felt, that Louisiana had no centers for spiritual living, was a message from the divine in the form of a booklet. So challenge yourself this week to remember to think big on your dreams. Think big enough to scare yourself a little bit. Turn whatever is your fear is about that into a masterpiece of a magnificent part of art. And check in each evening and see how you did. Ask yourself, what's the one thing that I can do or be so I always come from a place of remembering that I can change the world? One person and one action at a time. One person, you, and one action at a time. I want to end with these words of Ernest Holmes. They come from Richer Living. Every heart responds to the warmth of love. Every mind yearns for its embrace, and no life is complete without it. Love really is the fulfillment of the law of good. Love alone can heal the world and cause people to live together in unity and in peace. So let's pray. We just take a deep, nourishing breath. And we unite with that divine that is the peace and the love and the understanding and the spiritual guider for each of us. Knowing that each of us has within us the ability to be that love, to be that peace, to be that calm, to be that generosity, that compassion that can make a difference in the world. And what I know to be the truth is that each of us is totally capable of changing the world and making a difference. We don't have to be Chief Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We don't have to be Gandhi. We don't have to be Aristotle. We just have to be all that we can be. So I am knowing that the God without is the God within us. And when we just allow that to flow up from within, that the world is changing. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity I've had to be in this community, to be the leader of such wonderful, loving, compassionate, kind people. And it's from all that gratitude that I just release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action. Because I know the truth, that God does the heavy lifting for us. And God's already called all of this good. So I can just let it be. I can say amen. And we can affirm it together. And so it is. So coming up is our offertory blessing, and I just invite you to sing along with our music team and recognize the flow that happens as the information and the resources and your generosity comes in through the center.
The love of your spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal, bless, and prosper. It does good work in the world and returns to me, multiplied abundantly. From the love of your spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal, bless, and prosper. It does good work in the world and returns to me, multiplied abundantly. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
You can find all of the information for donating at our website at cslcc.org. southeastla.org. You can use the donate button there, or you can use Zella or Venmo at 225-287-8887. You can text your amount to 1-225-320-5100. Or you can mail your donation to CSL Southeast Louisiana, care of Reverend Larrye-Marie Heyl, 445 Magnolia Wood Avenue, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70808. We thank you for your tithes and donations, and we appreciate the fact that you are giving gifts that are flowing out to everyone we touch. So we have another beautiful song by Karen Mitchell. It really says exactly what I would want to say to everyone who's been part of this community up until now, and to anybody who's yet to come into this Center for Spiritual Living. Your hearts have uplifted me, supported me, laughed with me, and blessed me in so many ways. I can't imagine having spent the last 8 years of my life in a more delightful way of service than being in this community. I am so very grateful. So now, enjoy Karen's song. It's called Thank You.
If there was only one prayer ever spoken, only one prayer ever heard, only one heart ever broken, it would be enough to speak these words. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
We invite you to like us on Facebook at Center for Spiritual Living, Southeast Louisiana, and follow us on YouTube. Our channel is CSL SELA. You can also join us for our community time. You have a little bit of time to go grab coffee or tea and maybe a snack. Then dial in and join us for a live discussion. The conference line, which we use every week, is 515-604-9000. So put it in your phone with the participation code 475220. We begin with the discussion of the service and follow up with a process to help you dive more deeply into the concept of the day. We hope you'll join us. You can thank our musicians for donating their music today. Carol Lotz asks that you thank her by making a donation to our own center's music fund. That's Center for Spiritual Living, Southeast Louisiana, and just designate it for music. And you can thank Karen Mitchell by buying her music from her website at KarenMitchellMusic.com.
So in closing, I just remind you that Disney claims to be the happiest place on earth, and we here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Southeast Louisiana know that we are the most joyful. So may you be wrapped in the arms of loving kindness until we meet again. And may you recognize that you are where God shows up, and that you have something magnificent within you to give to this planet that you uniquely can give to form that beautiful tapestry of art. And when you give that, you feel very much alive.
Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive, alive forevermore. Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. My spirit is alive forevermore. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. My spirit is alive. Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive, alive forevermore. Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. My spirit is alive forevermore. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. My spirit